Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Good afternoon. It is my great pleasure to have all of you here at the Arab Gulf States Institute. I'm Doug Silliman, the president of the Institute, and we've got what I hope will be a very, very interesting and unique program for you this afternoon. One of the things that I have taken as a personal goal in this organization is to bring you events and people and analyses that you don't see in other places. And in this case, I've really, really wanted to bring more content about Oman, and particularly the Omani economy, because Oman, maybe in terms of natural resources, is not as well endowed as many of its neighbors. But in recent years, there has been a very concerted effort to marshal those resources in a new economic vision that I think is actually quite exciting. And we are bringing to you this afternoon, and I'm truly excited about this, His Excellency Mahmood Al-Aweini, who is the Secretary General of the Ministry of Finance, but also the Director of the National Program for Fiscal Sustainability and Financial Sector Development. And the way that Oman has shepherded its resources and applied them is, for me, an absolutely fascinating topic that I hope that we will get into. And in addition to Mr. Al-Aweini, we'll have as our moderator Dr. Robert Mogielnicki, who is a senior resident scholar here at AGSIW. So Robert, I will turn this over to you, and I ask you to begin our conversation.
Thanks. Great. Thank you very much, Doug. Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you for everyone who's joining us today. As I was looking over your extensive bio, I was really scratching my head to try to find one economic domain that you haven't worked on over the course of your career. I mean, between Ministry of Finance, fiscal sustainability, we've got Vision 2040, even earlier in your career working in free zones, ports, and the stock exchange. So I think you're very, very well suited to talk about Oman's kind of economic agenda and a lot of the success that has been made in that regard. We don't have a lot of time today, and this is a busy week, and I imagine you have a busy schedule. So I think we'll jump right in on the fiscal sustainability dimension. Now, Oman has made significant progress over the past few years on fiscal sustainability and a number of different economic reforms that have made the economy more robust and resilient. Could you walk us through how Oman has gotten to this point? Where has it come from? Where do things stand now in terms of the fiscal dynamics? And also, maybe looking forward, what are some of the challenges that you anticipate in the years ahead? Yeah.
So thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Robert, and the team, as well the audience. I hope it will be a beneficial session, a few minutes. Although I passed through a number of sectors, I started my career in the stock market, but I still have some support around me, so I can refer the difficult questions, specialize on an economic on this. So for those who are probably not following Oman physical stages, in 2014, we were almost a zero-debt country, and then oil prices start to be dropping for a number of years to come. We used to be an A-grade rated country, and in 2019, we were almost a junk rating country. Our debt increased in 2014 from maybe a few millions of Omani Riyals debt, internal mostly, to almost 70% of the GDP, and a lot of these came from international markets. So all that risk exposure, honestly, impacted the way we do our physical work. And we started with analyzing and diagnosing the root causes of why we reached there. Is it only the oil prices that drop and that's why we get impacted, or there are some other reasons? And we have been very honest with ourselves, as well as we always utilize independent eyes to come and review, and probably this one of the secrets for our success. So we built a midterm physical plan starting from 2020 until 25 and probably beyond, which will soften the impact of all of that and try to regain the credibility in the international market overall, try to control our spend, increase our revenue, diversify it, as well as controlling the debt portfolio. And that was one of the critical aspects that we worked on. All of that, honestly, implemented with a lot of discipline. So although we start to see some improvements at the following years, but the decision maker was very clear that we will continue implementing what we have. So one very good example to show how big was the challenge, in the plan itself, we had to implement VAT. And out of a sudden, COVID came. Have to take a very serious, very strategic decision, I would call it, at a difficult time. Should we implement or we wait? So the decision have been taken to implement it. We soften it, we customize it a little bit, but it have been implemented at the most difficult stage. But we try as well to protect the social groups, probably, or residents, from one angle and others, by probably selecting, for example, number of essential projects that will not be applied on at a certain period of time. So that shows how difficult was the decision, but very clear. The discipline from the management and the leadership was there. And honestly, the support of His Majesty himself following this profile was very important elements to make it happen. And now we can see a few weeks ago, we are back to the investment grade in terms of ratings. We are controlling very well our spend. We try to be very efficient, clearly efficient in the spend. And as well, we are looking at the diversified sectors. So we know we are a young nation, young country that is still expanding, and we don't want to, our physical plan, I would call it, to limit that expansion that we are looking for. So probably these were the main success factors and enablers that lead to it.
Thank you. You mentioned enablers, so I wanted to maybe pivot over to financial sector development, which is another important part of your portfolio. And I know that Estidamah launched dozens of initiatives earlier this year to bolster and enhance the financial sector in Oman. So could you give us a flavor of some of these initiatives, which ones have started to materialize over the course of the year, and what do you see as the key enablers of financial sector development, particularly in Oman? What needs to be done, and what are you doing in that regard?
Yeah, interesting question. And when I talk about Estidamah, it's a program linked to Oman Vision 2040. It's in fact one of the programs that have been initiated as an accelerators for working closely with the key player, and in this case is Ministry of Finance, to actualize, I would call it, the impact of these changes. So Estidamah came mainly to enable the private sector, the financial sector itself, from private point of view, to support the economic diversification, the attraction of FDIs, enabling attraction of capabilities, and upgrading the talent base. And again, we started with the as-is analysis. What was the sector? What are the challenges? And a lot of results, I would call it. It was results of certain root causes. We did not tap the results itself. We have to go deeply into the root causes to make a difference. And the program, after a year of analysis, and then an independent eye came again to challenge us on what outcomes we get out, focus on 10 pillars. 6 of them are essential, and 4 are enablers, important enablers to make it successful. And out of these 10 pillars, there are plus 75 initiatives on the ground. So just to give you a flavor of what are these, we focus on providing, for example, proper financing options for the SMEs, as well as directing the big financing and funding to the diversification sectors other than what we are normally tapping, the oil and gas and energy. So we were pushing the financial sector overall to fund these kind of investments overall. We also looked back to the capital market, and we thought it is not really doing the role that it should be in reflecting and providing an additional way or source of financing at that time. And we work hardly and deeply to restructure the capital market itself, to enlarge the potential opportunities within the capital market and make it more effective to support the overall ecosystem. So we had a number of initiatives in that regards. We also looked at the insurance sector, which currently contribute very minimal percentage into our GDP, and we knew that there's a huge opportunity of improvement there. We always have the benchmark analysis either within the Gulf countries or beyond that to be in place so it get our direction. And then last but not least was the exciting discovery, I would call it, which is the sustainable green funding and financing. And we were very clear and honest with ourselves that we could be the lead player in the region in the sustainable finance. This is because we already started earlier. We have the infrastructure and the potential either from talents or regulation system that it could support that. And we probably one of the first country who already bid around 8 concessions areas for hydrogen production and have been attracting number of big energy giants globally, not only in the region. And we are almost halfway there. All of these companies are testing if they will go for the final investment decision, which will make a big difference if it happens soon. On the other angle, we thought we have to have certain enablers to support all of these core, I would call them, initiatives that will make a difference in the financial sector, either public or private. So we thought the regulation framework, which was not really updated for years, has to be updated, and we are working in a number of these regulations, including the court system that will matter for the FDIs to be attracted. And we then looked at the human capabilities that's serving the financial sector. So that was very important elements, and we decide, yes, the human capital is essential in the success of this game. Then the financial technology, so want to attract more innovation in the technology, especially the fintech side. And it is essential for our major player, which is the banks and other investment institutions. They cannot do everything themselves. They need that upgrade of the financial services sector overall, and the right player to be in. And then we work on the financial literacy. So we want most or all categories within Oman, either students or those who are retired already, or expats who are serving in Oman, to benefit from all these opportunities that this change will lead. So we thought we need to educate the system. We need to upgrade the knowledge about the opportunities in the financial sectors so we can really link then the value and maximize its retention within the country.
Thanks. I'm going to pivot slightly to Oman Vision 2040, because you mentioned that in your earlier remarks. We know Gulf countries really love their visions. We cover Saudi Vision 2030 here a lot, and there are a number of other visions across the region. Could you elaborate for us how, I think it's clearer to most people how fiscal sustainability fits into various country visions across the Gulf, but how does financial sector development play a role in Vision 2040 in Oman?
Perfect. As I said, I think Estidamah and other accelerating programs start in terms of its philosophy and direction from the vision itself. So the vision specifies certain directions, and when we say Estidamah, it's sustainability in the physical space as well as other aspects. So Oman Vision specify that we need to build an economy that's sustainable. We need to keep our public physical space available all the time to absorb shocks, either of oil prices or other economic crises. And it has to attract FDIs. So we started from there, and we start to put clear directions and then KPIs, which are linked to Oman Vision 2040. So most of our KPI as an accelerating program honestly aligned and agreed with what they need to achieve in 2040. And this is a continuous discussion happening, and there's a follow-up of performance happening almost quarterly to make sure that we are aligned with the direction. So when we talk about FDI, for example, the financial sector could be one of the most important enablers to attract FDIs. And we have been, again, testing the system, seeing the business environment overall. Is it really enablers or attractive for those international players? We looked at as well the opportunities that the financial sector is offering. And one of the certainly initiatives that we experience a lot of big value addition here is some divestment program from our sovereign fund, Oman Investment Authority. And we have seen a huge inflow of funds getting to participate in these IBOs. And that was one example how the financial sector could save us miles and years of attraction for the FDI overall. Again, the banking system and Central Bank of Oman has a huge mandate to drive that stability within the financial sector, but also to put it into international standard that can attract important players from the market overall. So we work there. We try to widen the level and improve as well the level of service these financial institutions that can offer to the international players, so it can become easier for them to get in, as well as to improve the competitiveness of the sector itself, because to make it sustainable, it has to be very competitive. And we try to put all our players, major players, into that competitiveness environment, which we are sure it will lead to a better and bigger improvements in the sector overall. So as I said, Oman Vision is our direction overall, and the KPIs are reviewed in very specific details, I would call them, to fulfill the overall objective of the Vision 2040.
You mentioned the Omani Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Oman Investment Authority. That actually might be one entity that you haven't been directly involved with during your professional career. So I think I found that one economic activity. But your ministry does work closely, or at least alongside, the Omani Sovereign Wealth Fund. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that the fund transferred about 800 million Omani Rial to the state budget, at least according to the past annual report. So I guess, also in line with the comments you made about attracting FDI, we see these sovereign wealth funds across the region playing a really important role attracting foreign direct investment, or increasingly important role, especially in countries like Saudi Arabia. So how are you in your ministry and in your other portfolios working with and alongside the OIA to accomplish some of these objectives?
Okay, perfect. I think a very good question and tricky one as well. So, well, I think within Ministry of Finance, and by the time we start to have a very clear vision of implementing a physical reform, OIA was one of that initiatives, honestly. So we decide to take all government companies to be grouped, put it under one holding, and at the same time as well, we establish EDO as a methodology of funding our oil and gas activities for petroleum development of Oman. So that was specifically coming from the accelerator, which is the program started to put the physical reforms. Second, the chairman of OIA is our Minister of Finance, so you can see the link. And we are honestly partnering from all levels, either leadership levels or technical levels, to make sure that we are working together to support this methodology of the reforms that we agree all on. Oman Investment Authority supported the government hugely during the difficult stage. In fact, they supported us in a lot of aspects. I would call it, save us in certain years because of their depth, and certainly supported us financially in certain years to go ahead with having proper budgeting and then not get short of any funding. In the recent years, we start again to think together, and we start to feel the ability of OIA itself to be a real investment arm for the government, and as well as we start to support them to be enlarged, because they will save us at a certain, again, period of time. And they did a great job as well in reducing their debt for the government companies. They did huge efforts in driving clear methods or KPIs of efficiencies within their subsidiaries. And we are all, as a country, actualizing that, in fact, overall. And as I see, when we say Oman upgraded in terms of credit rating, OIA played a major role as well there. It have been tested, they work hard on that. So we decided whenever we are not in a huge need of support, especially when we have deficits time, then OIA has to grow and has to be really working in sectors that diversify our economy, support the economy, and we give them that space to do so. And one example, one very good example, honestly, on this is Oman Future Fund. We decided to establish Oman Future Fund with a very clear goal and aim to support our SME market. And that was very important sector for us. Very important sector for the economic diversification. So small, medium-sized companies sector is supported by 2 billion Omani Riyal through Oman Future Fund, which is an arrangement between Ministry of Finance and OIA, not to take that full 800 millions every year. So we sacrifice a number of I would call it financial deals between us and our sovereign fund to support the economy, to support the sector, and to, again, achieve our Vision 2040, because it mentioned clearly that SMEs are the key for our success in the next decade, probably.
I have one more question before I'm going to turn it over to the room here and have some questions from the audience. We have a lot of people here, wealth of knowledge as well, so please get ready with your questions. But the final point I guess I'll make before I do that is to look across the region. Oman's not the only country trying to promote fiscal sustainability, develop its financial sector, and also advance very ambitious country visions and agendas. So when you look across the region from your professional vantage point, what do you see as other countries, how do you see other countries getting it right, and what are some of the lessons learned that you're trying to adopt and incorporate into your work with you and your teams in Oman?
Yeah, perfect. Honestly speaking, we are an important player in the region itself, and we are really part of it. We are observing very carefully everything around us, and when we establish a program, we really go and ask about lesson learned. And for Estidamah, I recall before we start the program, we went to Saudi, who already started a similar program ahead of us, maybe 3-4 years ahead of us. And we spoke with a lot of honesty about what are the key challenges, learnings, how can we cooperate, really support. So we work really together with the other players in the region, and that's good for both parties, honestly speaking. We think the Gulf region currently could be one of the most accelerating developments and growth factors on the world overall. A lot of young sectors are developed, a lot of growth potential are there, and we think with the other options available around us, still the Gulf region is very attractive place for those players. And what drives that is the high ambition of these countries through their visions to be upgraded to do the right thing for their nations. We are as well not shy from competing. We know there are certain sectors we have to compete with our neighbors, and these are the healthy competition, and we need it, honestly speaking. But there are a lot of other opportunities that we complement each other. And that dialogue is always happening, and honestly speaking, the relationship, Oman has very good relationship with almost all. But what I actualize myself, being in Ministry of Finance, we have a lot of welcoming support as well from these Ministry of Finance in different Gulf regions, including Saudi and others. So we are really capitalizing on this. We work together in certain areas. We compete to make the market more competitive at certain other areas. And we think as an ecosystem, it's working well for us to be a center of attraction for the world, not only for the region.
Okay, we're going to open up for questions. Maybe we'll give Ambassador Silliman the first opportunity if you have one.
I think I will, and it's a complicated question, but I'm going to ask for one example. When I was last in Oman, I was struck by an increase in the cooperation between ministries that I had not noticed a decade ago or 2 decades ago. So my question really is for the Ministry of Finance and the financial system, how do you integrate and where have you seen the greatest impact in a positive way with another ministry on a particular program? In other words, is there something that you have done that has made the Ministry of Defense or that has made Ministry of Labor more effective or efficient? And because I'm looking for a specific example of where Ministry of Finance has really been able to turn the vision of Vision 2040 into new jobs, more investment, construction, whatever that ministry was working on.
Honestly speaking, this is one of the biggest challenge for Ministry of Finance employees. Challenge from an aspect that you have really to work with almost everybody. The full ecosystem within Oman has a direct or indirect link with Ministry of Finance, and you have to play your role to enable others. That integrated model, again, is I would appreciate that support came from the Oman Vision 2040, because that integrated approach is driven by the vision and by its KPIs that work together and allow people to work together to achieve a common objective. And we start to see a big difference on this. When it comes to Ministry of Finance, as I said, I think we work almost, there is no entity within Oman we did not work, including the private sector. And if you ask for a specific example, as specific examples in FDI attraction, so work very closely with the Ministry of Commerce and Industries to attract FDI, and we support them in a lot of aspects, including the incentive that we'll provide for those investors. When we talk about the Ministry of Economy, for example, we are in the middle of a big task where we have to develop the 5-year plan, the economic 5 years plan, 2630. And without Ministry of Finance having a big proportion of this integrated with the Ministry of Economy, we don't think that plan will happen or will be implementable at least. So we are, again, working closely, working together on a lot of these aspects to deliver a plan that will make a big difference from both economic and financial sector. And this integration is very critical for the success. Without it, you will not be able to attract FDI. Without it, you cannot really have a diversification, a real diversification from oil and gas. Without it, you will not be able to upgrade talents, which is very critical elements for Oman now, to upgrade talents in different disciplines, specialize in some of these areas. So we are working really hard to make that integration.
Thank you. Justin?
I'm Justin Alexander, Director for Collegiate Economics. I advise clients, including rating agencies and bond investors on the Gulf. And I've been very impressed by the transformation that you've talked about in Oman, and perhaps people who aren't so familiar to say that it really is dramatic. The debt to GDP in Oman has gone down, it's halved in 4 years, also part of that in a very difficult period during COVID. And part of the success you had, and part of the reason the market had confidence in Oman, you've come back to investment grade rating, was having a clear Tawazun fiscal balance plan, which you've implemented and was very detailed. However, kind of 4 years on from that release, it's, there isn't a guideline for what the next medium-term fiscal outlook is, what reforms are kind of coming on the way, such as personal income tax. When will that plan be updated and published? What kind of things might we see in the next medium-term plan?
Okay, perfect. Honestly speaking, we have been very clear, even with the credit rating agencies, IMF as well, that 2025 is a continuity of the existing midterm physical plan that we started earlier. And saying this, probably not everybody would be happy, but we are disciplined in achieving all our objectives. The investment grade in the credit rating is not the end of it. We are still ambitious to be upgraded more, and we think there are potential opportunities to deliver. So 25 will not be an exception. However, 26-30 plan is very critical for us, and we think it is the main big driver for our success in 2040 vision. And that's why we are investing a lot of time and resources and expertise, discovering also opportunities from everywhere to make it a very solid plan, as I said, from economic and financial point of view, integrated, and a plan that can be translated into a very clear execution plan that will have a KPI to be delivered and a proper follow-up system. Timing, I think by mid of next year, we'll be ready to announce something about this. We are all now as well trying to tap the other elements of it, the growth that we are anticipating in Oman in different disciplines. Some of upgrades in the diversification sectors that we are tapping, and how we can really enable these sectors to grow during that 5 years plan. In addition to the being a really clear and I would call it a clean energy hub for other industries, which can really attract big players into the market, and we have all enablers. So all of this will be explained and detailed in the upcoming physical plan that we are aiming to build, and we hope by mid of next year it will be available for sharing with the external parties.
Yeah, right here.
So my name is Jamil Khan. I am with Polychemia, which is in the LNG trading business mostly. And thank you for sharing a lot of information that was very, very, I would say, intriguing, particularly the Vision 2040, which is, I think, one of the very ambitious and aggressive, just like most of the other plans are in the region. So my question is, just like the Saudi Vision 2030, they have announced that some of those projects related to that 2030 vision are going to be delayed because of the things that you just described for Oman as well. So do you think, is there any substantial delays in any of the projects that are part of the Vision 2040, or do you think it would be just like going on, you are going to expedite with the time?
Yeah, I think there are some differences by the way we tap our vision. Our vision is a transformation vision for the existing ecosystem rather than having specific projects. So the projects will come along with this if things get corrected. Second, we are enabling the private sector. So we try to minimize as much as we can the government intervention and funding of the upcoming projects. And this is a theme we take it overall because we think governments cannot be the major player in all aspects, either social or investments or building capacity. We need to enable the private sectors to do their role, and this is the sustainable, I would call it, way of thinking that we are trying to approach. We deliver a number of projects which we have been delayed, and they have been delivered now already. Some of the projects, again, are on the plan to be delivered, and we think we show now, again, discipline in delivering some of these. We delay already number of plans which we are aiming to get it done in the next 5 years, which is the 26-30. But overall, the last 5 years, although it starts with very difficult years, deficits and other high debt timing, but honestly speaking, what have been achieved to recover the last the previous 5 years is really important for us, because it will give us another I would call it enablers to start again over again in the next 5 years plan. If we speak about very specific projects, we think we are we have to fix the ecosystem overall, and then investments will be progressing as it should be. So we have seen Duqm, for example, already start to be a very attractive place for foreign investments, industries, heavy industries, and we announced number of projects that are on progress. Who's leading this? It's the private sector. We utilize sometimes Oman Investment Authority to put sometimes the first dollar with the foreign investors, but again, with a very clear divestment plan as we go. So we think this is the best way, which will save us from delaying our projects or hit by a risk of not being able to deliver all what we promise.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I just read an article about the Saudi Fund for Development team had a meeting in Duqm exploring different collaboration investment opportunities there. So ongoing interest in that mega project. I think, Tim, you had your hand raised.
I did. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. I'm Tim Callan from the Arab Gulf States Institute. Maybe if you'll allow me 2 questions. So one is, I guess looking forward, how prepared do you feel now if there is a substantial drop in oil prices? So how, particularly on the fiscal side, how prepared are you for that, and how would you respond if next year, say, oil prices are $60 rather than $75 to $80? And then secondly, related to the last point, just in terms of investment between Saudi, UAE and Oman, could you say something about, sort of the interlinkages that are going on there and how you're seeing that side develop? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. We built our budget for 2025 on $60. This is one of the conservative approach that we have taken. But as well, we already have number of measures within the budget itself that give us a luxury of being able to absorb any shock up to $52. So this is one of the elements. We already built number of scenarios that we can take over. The last thing I would think about is, again, to go back and increasing our debt. So we take a lot of measures on that. And honestly speaking, based on our analysis, it is expected to go below the 60. At least this is our internal analysis. But from our side as ecosystem preparation for that, I think we are doing so far a good job. And again, numbers by numbers, we can absorb a certain shock on this. On your other question, I think the integration between the Gulf countries is very important. It's very important because of the trades and flow of goods between these countries. Very important because of the investment opportunities that are lying and offered by different parties to others, and transfer of knowledge in some of these areas, and important because of the flow of talents as well between these countries. So complementing each other in some of these sectors are very important, and it is a decision have been taken by the leadership of these countries to move ahead. So on the ground, we have seen number of investments in flow and between the countries, including some Omani companies going to Saudi or UAE, and the opposite. We have seen some big investments announced already. For example, Duqm refinery as a big project already supported and financed by the Saudis. And now the most recent, we have that linkage of the train between Oman and UAE, and probably later on with the other Gulf countries. And these are taken seriously because there have been already allocated funds for that. Teams have been shaped, companies have been established to run them. And we can see there's a huge integration starting over. We are lucky in Oman as well. We are in front of the Indian Ocean. So we are almost the gate of the Gulf region. So we do a lot of support for others, either in case if there's any risk of barriers for the flow of the trades or the fuel or the oil exports, but also we act as an integrator for others in certain areas, especially flow of products or goods coming through the ports. And as well, we are very close to Yemen, which we anticipate a lot of opportunities if things get well over a period of time. So all of that are, I would call it, big opportunities, which we think about, and the integration between the Gulf region is built on that basis, purely from economic and trades point of view. And as I said, projects are sanctioned, already started on the construction phases, some of them.
Rachel, yep. and then we'll get you, Mimi.
Rachel Ziemba, Horizon Engage and Center for New American Security. Picking up on that point about trade, Oman stands out in the region as being the only country that has a free trade agreement with the United States. And I'm interested in sort of that context, and I recognize some of this may be beyond the scope of the Ministry of Finance, but if there are any thoughts about leveraging that sort of platform to a greater degree. The United States in particular is doing has been doing a range of industrial policy measures that put countries that have a free trade agreement in a somewhat different bucket. Are there sectors or elements that are part of this medium-term plan? My other question, since Tim asked 2 questions, and this way you can decide which ones you want to answer, is about capital markets development. Many questions here have rightly highlighted this amazing fiscal consolidation that has occurred, and that it's relatively occurred without a major growth hit, right, which I think is important. I'm just interested in any thoughts you might have about either other parts of the sovereign balance sheet having more space to take on debt, or whether there are other plans to support private sector, either debt or equity issuance as you develop those areas. Again, I recognize some of these questions go beyond the scope of the Ministry of Finance, but I'm just interested in your perspective. And thank you.
Yeah, thanks. In fact, when we talk about the FTA, it is a hot topic of study and learnings as well. And Oman just recently established a very specific center under Ministry of Commerce to tap on this economic partnership with different countries and assessing the FTAs that we have currently for a purpose of improving, I would call it. If you ask me about the opportunities, honestly, I think there's a huge opportunity between Oman and US, especially we have huge areas for heavy industries now, free zones mainly, Duqm, Salala, medical factories start to be sending medications to US. We are now very active on attracting the semiconductors businesses as well to Oman from one angle. And we have seen some investments coming from US as well, tapping and targeting these kind of opportunities, including the silicon and other types of industries. So we think with the green energy philosophy that we are having, we will be expanding hugely our industrial base, which will again have a very good interlink and probably more utilization of the FTA itself. Still, I will leave the final decision to those who are responsible for studying this topic, and we hope we can really enable and create that value addition as we go. On your other question, the capital market. As I said, when we start the program, the capital market was very shy in contributing to the overall financial system. But now we are talking about interlinkage with the base of investors, huge base of investors, through Euroclear, for example, to be the central depository. So international investors, big player, has direct access to these stocks, bonds, and other instruments. On the other hand, we are working clearly with OIA, which is the major player, and as well some family private businesses to offload their shares into the market, and we design very clear programs for that. And we start to see some of these already starting, and we think we will be actualizing a lot of benefits out of this if the full program is completed. If we talk about the ability to attract FDI, it's either on greenfield projects or into the financial instruments. And we feel getting players into the market in the financial instruments is much, much easier than, asking them to go and developing new projects overall. So we think we need to sell these opportunities, and we have very ambitious plan, for example, from our side as Ministry of Finance on our debt side. So we'll be doing some issuance, green issuance as well, and we'll do proper roadshows for the right investors to get in, and we think that will offer very great opportunities on the financial sector for those who are really keen to support us. Maybe one final point that could help us is the upgrade, which happened so far, and we are continuing that upgrades with the other credit rating agencies, but also we are focusing next year on upgrading our capital market from being a frontier to emerging, and that again will open the doors for a lot of these. We are almost there, but because of the size, which have been resolved now by offloading one of the biggest oil and gas companies in the country into the market, that is mostly resolved now. So we think, and we are very ambitious that the upgrade for the capital market to happen next year as well.
Mimi, and then we'll make our way around the table.
Good afternoon. My name is Mimi Burke. I'm with Brownstein. It's a government relations firm. And thank you, Your Excellency, for sharing your time with us today in this busy World Bank IMF meeting week. As you mentioned, you have some very affluent neighbors in the GCC. You also, as you mentioned, have some not so fortunate, as in Yemen. And could you share with us what that conflict, what has that done to impact your economy?
Good. I think any crisis happening around us, we will certainly be impacted. Although Oman try to be always fair with everybody and fair with itself, so we don't interfere usually on any of these crises. However, there are some humanitarian aspects that we support with, and this is, again, a common direction for Oman overall. From economic point of view, again, the disturbance happening around us, usually it impacts trades. It gives probably sometimes bad signals about the atmosphere overall. So one very good example that we could share, foreign investors, when we go and do a roadshow, it's very hard to convince them that Oman is very safe, stable, and it has, I would call it growing economy, and very stable as well in terms of our exports of oil, and we are at the same area that a lot of crises happening around us. So it give us some challenges that to sell Oman's story at certain period. But certainly when people come and visit, they recognize all of that, and they understand how the stability supported us in being, more disciplined in attracting the investments and creating the economy. From the other angle, I think these crises as well offer us opportunities. And by having limited choices for the investors in the globe, especially in the Middle East, Oman come to be one of the best options for them, because as I said, in real terms, all of these are available in Oman, although a lot of the atmosphere around us is burning, could be. So we are trying to capitalize on that opportunities. And we think, again, if things went well in the neighborhoods, we will be enabler for that stability, and a lot of commercial activity that we can build on could be capitalized overall. But as I said, it has been very clear. We have been the best options within a region, which we were not be there before that. But because of the crisis, it offers us some opportunities that allow investors to consider us as a very important option for them for years to come.
Okay, I think we have time for one or two more. Over here, please.
Hi, thank you very much. Let me just add my thanks again to Your Excellency for this excellent presentation. I'm Jill Doshi of Potomac Group, and we work here in Washington, D.C., advising sovereigns on issues of sustainable finance. So I was wanted to pick up on this thread that you were mentioning about your plans of reforming the capital markets and looking towards sustainable issuances. And we noted in January you had introduced your sustainable finance framework, and then just recently you've announced that there are going to be government development bonds, and you've just mentioned some green issuances perhaps coming. So I just wanted to ask for a little bit more elaboration on some of these plans and.
Perfect. In fact, as I said, as Estidamah, as an accelerator program, we discovered there's a huge opportunity for Oman if we have the right ecosystem in place. So we take the first step as the government, and we issued the sustainable framework, and we decided to have 6 initiatives all together. Mostly is preparing the ecosystem for the green funding, because without it we cannot go to the market and ask for these funds. So we started with Ministry of Finance Sustainable Framework. Then the capital market issued the disclosure requirements, and they put it as an optional for 2024, mandatory 2025 for the listed companies. OIA, then Oman Investment Authority, issued their framework, and it's applicable on their subsidiaries. And then we went to the private sector from one angle. So by that, we thought we have the full ecosystem in terms of regulation is available in place, which is the first step we have to take overall. Then we work on other aspects, which is the governance of the green and sustainable ecosystem within Oman. And if you know, we have a net zero ambition of 2050. So Oman Sustainability Center have been announced, and it's in the final stage of governance and detailed ways of work. So that center is unique in itself, I would call it. It's the first in the region. We are building the capacity and capabilities, and it will be the integrator for the whole government entities, as well as the link with the private sector, including the financial sector support. So we have that hub, which we hope it will be a regional player, not only in Oman. So we think that can add a lot of big value for the ecosystem. On the other angle, we start to work on the projects. So we are initiating number of development projects that the government used to be responsible for by direct funding, and that's why we want to have green funding issuance to support these projects. The challenge now, how we qualify these projects to be green, and we are working hardly on doing that. On the other hand, the private sector as well now playing a very important role. We have seen number of our banks certainly supported and regulated by Central Bank of Oman to get first green funds available with them to be dispersed for the market. So all of that are going together. We think we have, again, a very ambitious plan for issuance from the government side, but we think as well the ecosystem, the financial ecosystem that start to get that attention will be playing with us on that role as we go.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question to squeeze in the back there.
Thank you very much. My name is Todd Wiggins. In closing, I wanted to ask you about your public profile with respect to how you've successfully been able to represent yourself here in the States, not only to Congress, but to the general public with respect to your green energy initiatives and other collaborations. You're familiar, I'm sure, with the Sultan Qaboos Cultural Center at 1100 16th Street. That's a beautiful expo center. I assume you've been there in addition to the embassy. So do you feel that these two facilities adequately represent some of the things that you discussed, and would you improve upon that representation, if at all?
No, not really. I have to be honest. I think, again, it links to our ambition, and now we have very high ambition, and maybe we have taken the first step. We have a dedicated professional commercial attaché. We don't see him, he's supposed to be here, already in place, who can make a big difference, but probably not alone. We have to give a lot of support. But on the other angle, again, we have not been accelerating this because we want to do it right. And I must say there is a big project of branding Oman overall to be issued very soon, and we are working professionally on that to have the right enrichment to US market as well as others. And I hope that will make the big difference overall. We know that we need to get, again, a lot of support to the existing players, the embassy, as well as the commercial attaché, but as well Oman Investment Authority and subsidiaries and the networks as well are very supporting, and we work in again, one methodology in an integrated way. And we are hosting Elon Musk next month in Oman as one part of that, support that we have between the government itself and its subsidiaries or the private players overall. So these, we think, could make a big difference. And again, we aim about the results. So network without a result is not what we are looking for. We need that results and actualizing the value for Oman on these activities as we go.
Well, thank you very much, Your Excellency. A number of questions here, but I think it's a good excuse to invite you back and continue the conversation. I'll turn things over to Doug to close out this conversation.
Excellency, thank you again for coming to help us introduce the future of the economy of Oman. You've been an excellent spokesperson, and you've raised a number of issues that you've seen. It is clear that any Ministry of Finance has a huge impact on an entire government, on an entire country. So we wish you the greatest of success, and we hope through the Arab Gulf States Institute to continue to present information from you, from others in the Omani government, to help Americans, institutions, individuals, and others understand the changes that are taking place and your vision and the opportunities that Oman offers. So, Excellency, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you.